architect or designer and the installation requirements, by the time the plumbing consultant or contractor comes into the scene, the construction has either commenced or the civil structure already complete. Plumbing is a science and plumbing technology is evolving every day. Plumbing design is determined by codes guided by ever-changing building requirements and water and waste demand. Today we are building eye to sky. No building is less than 100 meters and even going up to 300 meters plus. This requires proper codal-based plumbing and well-defined and designed parameters, well planned and integrated into the architect's civil design initially. Moreover, India has the distinct disadvantage of having over 17% of the world's population, but only 4% of the world's fresh water. This anomaly must be filled with using less water at source, enhancing water supply by rainwater harvesting, treating all wastewater for reuse, and moving towards net zero and net zero discharge. 70% of the communicable disease, including diarrhea, cholera, hepatitis A, typhoid, dysentery, E. coli, ambiosis, amongst others, are transmitted through bad quality of water. Incidentally, diarrhea kills over 3,000 children every day due to contaminated water supply. That is 10.95 lakh children every year recurringly. COVID so far, as on today, has killed 9,08,054 people as per the last count I checked on the internet. So you can imagine diarrhea is a bigger killer than even COVID, cancer or AIDS. And we do not look at, especially the designer community does not look at the contamination in water supply, and therefore all this design parameter has to be brought in at the stage of inception of the building. No doubt, ladies and gentlemen, a plumbing engineering degree is called public health engineering. The degree is called PHE, public health engineer, because he or she is responsible for the health of millions. Plumbing design incorporates health and hygiene aspects into an installation, an aspect not understood by the designer yet. We hence come back to this very important topic of problems, challenges and wishes of plumbing in modern architecture. I would like to introduce to you today's moderator, my colleague from Indian Plumbing Association, Mr. B.O. Prasanna Kumar. B.O. Prasanna Kumar is the chairman of the IPA Bengaluru chapter. He is also the joint managing director of Design Tree Service Consultants, Bangalore. He has done his civil engineering from the Mysore University and obtained a Masters of Engineering in Environment Science from Gulbarga University. Since 29 years or more, he has been involved in design services including water supply systems, sewage network, wastewater treatment plants, sewage treatment plants, solid waste and storm management, swimming pool and filtration design, industrial piping including compressed air, vacuum, process cooling, fire protection, life safety, among others. He is the co-founder of Design Tree Services Consultants, having offices in Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad and Kolkata with a 189-member strong engineering team. He is also chairman of the IPA Bengaluru chapter since 6 years and a member of the World Plumbing Council. He is representative from IPA for the panel CED 24 at the BIS, Indian Standard Code of Basic Requirements of Water Supply, Drainage and Sanitation. He is also a CII IGBC accredited professional. Vishveshwarya Technological University, Karnataka conferred him as an industrial expert for process of reviewing and revising syllabus for undergraduates and postgraduate programs. So we have with us B.O. Prasanna Kumar. Welcome, Mr. Prasanna Kumar.
Thank you, Gurmeet for the introduction, and very good evening to everyone. Today we have the topic which is relating to health in the construction industry, because plumbing is very, very important. And the current trend of urbanism is a term concerned to the spatial relation and design approach, theory, strategy, and the way of to improve the living standard in cities. The archaeologist as a word to describe the process to drive the people to the cities. That is what archaeologist. And urbanism is the way to deal with the city, including philosophy that seeks to explain the town-city relation. It aims of civilized people in the city adopting their resources and technology, advancing for achieving good quality of life, that is quality, beauty, enjoyment, equality and satisfaction. With this background of above, let us discuss topic of the day: problem, challenges, wishes of plumbing in modern architecture. Let me set a tone and context to this panel discussion. The word plumbing is always associated with health and hygiene. This is more relevant in this pandemic epoch. Lack of safe water, sanitation, hygiene remains one of the world's most vital, rather exigent health issue. Life on this planet cannot ignore the presence of potable water. Every day we get increasingly worrying information on drought that are now chronicle in certain parts of the world. With this background, in near future, world directives of water conservation will become increasingly restrictive. In immediate environment exposed to fecal matter that will transfer back into people's food or water resources, helping to spread serious diseases. Beyond the community, the lack of effective waste disposal or the sewerage system can contaminate ecosystem and contribute to the disease pandemics. We are required to prevent potable water waste with modern and efficient system. Safeguarding water begins with an efficient plumbing system. There are modern solutions for building potable water system. With these systems, we can immediately identify the leaks to less than perfect installations. Sustainable plumbing system for water reuse in any building, more so in modern building, need lot of advocacy. The water which we use to drink, cook and sanitary use must have high hygienic standards. Other uses such as flushing toilets, washing machines and irrigation can use rainwater, and water coming from drains with suitable treatment can be used for this purpose. This advocacy is really required and it's order of the day. The cutting edge technology is always used in these devices. A few years ago, equipping building with these systems could be very burdensome. Today and even more in future, technological progress will make these devices increasingly advantageous. Introduction to various building codes in professional practice, emphasizing the importance of code and standards to protect public health, safety, welfare, and to ensure compliance with the local regulations. Whereas IPA, in association with IAPMO India, developed a comprehensive plumbing code named Uniform Illustrated Plumbing Code of India 2017, which is of 690 pages. This is giving complete insight of design and installation in exemplified way. Whereas IPA has undertaken training in Nike weekend called IPPL, a comprehensive win that has knowledge, skill enhancement, reward altogether. If you are professionals for building industry, you must not miss this opportunity. To give a best modern building, we have to give us a great collaborative work with owners as architects, planners, designers, code makers, consultants, maintenance team. Today we have a very exciting composition of panelists. Our panelists are leaders and masters in the domain. With this, let me take the opportunity to welcome panelists onto this panel discussion: problem, challenges, wishes, and plumbing in modern architecture. I would like to take this opportunity also to thank IDAC to have us together in this talk. And first, let me introduce the first panelist, Mrs. Zabina Zakaria. Mrs. Zabina is the First Lady, President, 50 in 58 years in the Institute of Indian Interior Designers. Her practice has a unique project profile with clientele like Star Hotel, museum, showrooms, institutions, exclusive residences. Apart from architecture and interior, Zabina ji is also multi-facet artist, activist, theatre person, music, dance, painting, sketching, writing, and teaching. Zabina ji, welcome you. You can make your introductory presentation. Over to you now, madam.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Friends, I am a reasonably good architect and designer is what I believe. However, as an expert in plumbing, I don't know where I will fit. I still remember the days of my architecture studies when I used to fall asleep in every plumbing design class. I have actually tried taking a green chili with me, biting into it. However, I would immediately fall asleep in 5 minutes. But then, maybe it was not because it was boring. Even in those days, I had this feeling that plumbing is something which I should really leave to the experts. That nitty-gritties and complexities of what you try to do or what we try to do in the name of plumbing is too much. I have to trust you. Which makes me like an absolute fool today in this panel, which I am proud of. Because again, as the saying of Alexander Pope goes, fools dare to go where angels don't. So that has been my philosophy for all these 35 years of practice from resorts to residences. I have left the complexities of designing plumbing to suit my needs always to the consultants. That said, plumbing for me is much more than moving water or wastewater or waste from one point to other. It is almost the index of civilization. We say all roads lead to Rome. Similarly, if you put all the battles, wars, everything fought together, actually plumbing has saved more people by bringing solutions for diarrhea, typhoid, so many of that. So actually, plumbing is not just an engineering science which deals with waste and water, but much beyond that. So I respect all the efforts which we are putting in today into this subject. Now, to take me to the next slide, I have never kind of tried to design buildings. Can I have the next slide, please? Here, of course, we see Rome and certain very important milestones. Yes. So in my designs, I have used water in very, very different ways. And I must say that I'm so thankful to all my consultants and contractors and product manufacturers who make some of this possible. Because for me, I would simply ask them, this is what I want. Most of the time they even tell, man, this is not possible. We have to run the ducts, pipes. And I would say, but then you are the experts. I don't know anything about it other than I will need it here. And they have always performed. So that is how I have some beautiful projects here. Like we are seeing here the Leela at Kovalam, the KTDC Mascot 5-star at Trivandrum, and then of course we have the Le Meridien at Cochin and Sachin Tendulkar's residence itself. Water has been an integral part, whether it's in the kitchen or whether it's in the toilet or outdoor. Yes, it is absolute rejuvenation and the heart of my designs. Next slide, please. That said, today, rightfully said by the earlier speakers, we are into uncertain times. It is high time that we experts come together and discuss about the challenges. Some of them we can list, some of them we don't even know. For example, COVID has exposed us to so much. Here, now it is airborne. Suppose something happens to water, what happens? Even that 4% of water we have, if a virus is there which contaminates water, then what next? 2011 New Zealand earthquake. There was an order that nobody can drink water because it was contaminated. So many uncertainties there. And you can see how the style is changing from the private conceived narrow interiors to very open, very transparent, very, very interactive kind of spaces, what we see today. We even see, like in that picture, you can see urinals for ladies. But then the last picture, still that WC, which we are trying to clean. It is about health and hygiene and the normal things which we need to make happen with this great science and with the expertise of all the experts here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zabinji. It was quite interesting. You have nicely touched your pictures from communal Roman bath to the aqueduct to modern and future clientele requirement. Thank you very much. Now, let me take the honors of introducing Mr. Hafiz Contractor. He's an icon in the construction industry. He created many marvel designs in architecture. Mr. Hafiz Contractor heads the largest architecture firm in India and having about 2,500 clientele and 7.2 billion square feet of ongoing projects in 100 cities and 5 countries. He is the winner of over 75 national and international awards. He does not require any more introduction. Hafiz sir, welcome you. Over to you for the introduction speech.
Hi. Thank you very much for saying all the good words for me. Rather than going roundabout ways of introducing some and giving a speech, I have always been an advocate that, yes, plumbing is very, very important, and without a proper plumbing, no building will ever be a good building. And leakage is one thing which everyone hates. And from my college days, I used to really love the subject services, and in fact, for my initial years, I would be doing my plumbing design on my own. And so at least as a subject for plumbing, I'm very, very used to the technicalities. But today, what I really feel is the kind of population that India has, and the way we are going forward, the kind of migration that is taking place in India, whereas now all the rural population, most of it is going to be coming to the urban areas. And from the urban, can you change the slide, please? These are this is what really is the fate of our cities. If you look at it in Mumbai, 1 out of every 2 people live in slums. In Kolkata, 1 out of every 3. In Chennai, 1 out of 4, and in Delhi, 1 out of 5. And if you look at it, that a fraction of our number of people live in proper Pakka buildings where we all are talking about plumbing systems. And this is, I think I would like to show this slide a little later, please. What I'm trying to get to it is that if India has to progress, we have to progress and see how our future cities are going to be built. And when we are talking about future cities, we are talking about this millions and millions of people, how they are going to get their housing, affordable housing. And that gets me to the main point today, that when we are talking about these millions of people who will come to the cities, and for India, 75% of the built environment that is going to be built in the next 30 years does not exist today. So we, as architects, as plumbing consultants and constructors, have a huge problem on our hand, that all these people will be getting into EWS housings, and there'll be small houses. Today, our major problem occurs, we are all equipped with proper plumbing systems. There are lots and lots of people who will advise us, you use this pipe, you use this kind of fittings, all of it. But the most important thing is, do we have number of people to do that kind of a work? And for me, at least, maybe, my answer is that we do not have so many people. And if we have it, we have to have a system which is going to be, free of any mistakes. Like any housing that we have started today, in the last 6 months or last 8-9 months, even designing, we are all talking about precast. We are not talking about the old system of beams and columns is completely gone. What we are talking about, Maivan, is also gone. Now we are only talking about precast. So with that, the biggest point that I would like to portray before all of you, and whenever any large manufacturer of sanitary equipment or tiles, or all of them have come to me and telling me, oh, why don't we have you use this tile for ours, or why don't you use this kind of sanitary ware? And I have been always telling them that why don't you all, some fellow is making the taps, some fellow is making the basin, and some fellow is making the pots, and some fellow is making the tiles. And what happens that the maximum time goes into a toilet. Why can we not have a system where the basin with the tiles, there is nothing like a tile, there is nothing like a basin, okay, and it comes like a panel. So my request to everyone is that we should have a system where the tap to the basin, to the bottle trap, to the nani is a one system. So I have taken out every plumbing to be done in the toilet. I want to take it out. So with that, I will avoid any of my future joints, my future pipes in the toilet. The same way, there will be one system which will be the waste, the other would be for the fresh water. And with that, we will be able to do faster work, better work, and I'm looking at it that when all of these people, we are finding ways of housing them. Are we finding ways of having proper toilets, faster toilets, okay, so that everything becomes proper and practical. Now, other point, as was just said, that next slide, we have very little water, we have a bursting population, and our systems of having bath, our systems of doing everything in our house is more and more water intensive. And that is one thing that I have been telling everyone, that we create bigger showers, more use of water. Why are we doing that? And that is one thing which I have been telling each and every manufacturer, that please do not have that kind of showers where you use more water. In fact, you should have showers by which there is a little bit of a steep, there is a little bit of a speed where you use half the water. I sometimes, make a decision every 6 months that, I'm going to stop using any showers and I'm going to have my bath through a bucket only. But 2 or 3 days and I have to run fast, and I have to go somewhere for an appointment and I forget the bucket. So these are things that are to be taught, and I feel that plumbing design, downtake design, all of that, we have lots and lots of very efficient engineers, and some of them are on the panel, and we take help of them. But we have to really get after the manufacturer. Since a long time, I have been talking about toilets, and I have been insisting on them that why can we not have vacuum flushing toilets so that we use less water? Everybody promises, but nobody manufactures them. I feel that we all should insist on all our manufacturers to get at a different level, so that we have all fixtures and all toilet equipments for the next millennium. Thank you.
Thank you, Hafizji. It was really nicely you put in. For your information, the vacuum toilets are there, designs can be done, the equipments are available, but there is no indigenous manufacturing. That has to happen quickly now. So we can see futuristic toilets, which definitely where water is under crisis, we need to use those kind of toilets. Thank you very much, sir. Now, before moving to next panelist, I just would like to thank WaterTech, our sponsor for this event, and they have contributed to this, making this plumbing webinar. This one, their contribution is mentioned here. Yeah. Our next panelist, Mr. Suresh, is having 5.5 decades of experience in housing, urban development, infrastructure, real estate sector, and sustainable development. He was former CMD, HUDCO, Chairman, Bureau of Indian Standard Housing Committee, Vice Chairman, National Building Code of India, Chairman, CII Green Building Council, IGBC, Chairman of IGBC Green Cities Rating System. Welcome you, sir, and your initial remarks, Suresh ji.
Very happy. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's such a pleasure to join a galaxy of distinguished panelists here to talk on this very important topic on the issues on water and the plumbing related issues in a large way. When I try to talk in terms of the use of water, the best way is to talk into the green building movement itself, where conservation of water is one of the very major component that we have under this particular category, where we have done the first of those building that we have called the Green Business Center, inaugurated by the ex-president of this country, and wherein this is incidentally not only a platinum rated green building, but also incidentally it's also a net zero building also, which now recently come in a very large way, which over the last 20 years time period has contributed phenomenally to the green building movement. As you would see from the next slide, which I would like to take it forward, from a small start of only one building, green building in 2001 with 20,000 square feet, we have come a long way, and we have just crossed 7.61 billion square feet of green footprint. I was so happy to see that Hafizji himself had done about 7.2 billion square feet of built space all over. Of course, ours is all green building footprint of ours over there, and these are facilitated more than about 90% of India's green building movement. To be exact, it is 92.8% is done by the IGBC, and the remaining rating agencies have the balance 7% of the rating. And it cuts across all the asset classes of building that we have, be it on the hill station or railway station or the airports or the schools or the hospitals or residences or all the office complexes that you have, or the various campuses that are built in different parts. And we also moved from the buildings to the built environment. As you would see here, about 26 green rating systems are there, where initially they covered all this category of all asset classes of the buildings over there, which, as I said, from the residential to the commercial to the educational to the healthcare to the retail that you have, or the factories, or whichever you want, or resort areas, everything is covered, and moved from there to the transit, including all the airports, and now into the areas of metros, and then came to the neighborhood level, at the level of a campus level, to that of a township level. And that really brought in the green cities rating also, which has come. So effectively it covers the total component to done in an integrated manner. Sustainable development is the whole key. Sustainable in terms of all the natural resources, be it land as a resource, water as a resource, energy as a resource, or the resource that we have of air that we have, and all those things are to be utilized well. So the place that you stay or you live or other aspects, everything is covered under that. And each one of them, water conservation is one of the major component there. The principles are using recharge, reduce and reuse in a large way, be it in respect of water efficient fixtures or water saving fixtures, or very importantly, just like the star rated electrical items are there, now you have the star rated water efficient fixtures which has come over there, aquifer recharging, rainwater harvesting, wastewater recycling, and using all the type of things in the water fixtures, so that we are saving every drop of water that you can have. Very happy and proud to say, when we did this, we are having around 25 to 35% of the actual water normally that would have been used. Each one of the green building that we certify would have brought in so much amount of saving for the water. Imagine, as a result of that saving, by doing in 3 buildings, a 4th building can be done, because that's the type of saving you have for each building that you have. The next building can also come in a large way. And as a result of this, we are going forward, besides all the features getting into water saving of a various nature, which details, of course, in the Q&A sessions will come out in detail. We are also getting into the net zero movement, and that's called net zero energy, net zero water, as a net zero waste, and net zero carbon. It's a very great new initiatives to come in over there. There are a few buildings also done in this country already under these particular classification, and this rating system is also coming. Net zero energy has already come. Net zero water in a month, it will be month or two by the time the Green Building Congress comes in October. It will be also ready, and that's a great area where we are working on. The idea is to see that the very limited resource, like Hafiz rightly put across, that 1.35 billion became 1.7 billion. Can you believe we were just around 1 billion just 20 years back in 2001, and we already around 1.4, nearly 4 it has come now. That means we added about 40 crores or 400 million 20 years time. 2 crores adding every year. So water is going to be one resource where life is going to be taken care of. And we are working in that particular sector on water and sanitation, without which nothing can work. You can do the best possible finishes being given over there. If you don't have water in that building and also the sanitation facilities there, that building is useless. That cannot be used for any purpose. So we touch on the most fundamental requirement, and as Gurmeet said, health-related issue. 80% of all the problems of health is because of bad water and bad sanitation which comes over there. Everything is related. WHO studies say. So we're contributing in a very big way, and we're very happy that the green building movement is contributing to a large area. In addition, 3 major components: integrated water management, integrated energy management, integrated waste management, and carbon footprint reduction, overall greening, and improving the quality of life for the people. I'd like to stop at this point of time. It will be a pleasure to join on the Q&A session.
Thank you, Suresh ji, and you nicely touched upon the 3R concept, which really it is order of the day, and maximum the water saving, recycling, reusing of water is contributing to green, Now, green is not just a painted green, that you narrated very nicely. Thank you very much, sir. Now on to next panelist, Mr. Gurmeet Singh Arora, National President, Indian Plumbing Association. He has brought about the paradigm shift in IPPS since he took over as National President, bringing more than 80% growth in all spheres of IPA, as he is a founding board member, National Vice Chairman of CII IGPC. He brings about a synergy among both the association with the focus on sustainable development and practices. Gurmeet ji, over to you for your initial slides. Yeah.
We started the Indian Plumbing Professional League in 2017, 18 and 19, and now we are in the third year. I'll talk about it a little later. But I would like to tell you that plumbing constitutes 12 to 13% of the total construction cost of a project. And it is not only the water supply, waterproofing, taps and fixtures, swimming pools, water treatment, but also the waste to be taken away in a hygienic manner. The plumbing industry today is pegged at 5 lakh crore rupees in India, and therefore is a very large industry. As Hafiz sir said, that the population is going to explode to 1.7 billion. We are looking at massive demand in water. I have already said that we have only 4% of the world's fresh water, but 17% of the world's population. And therefore, what we are planning to do is introduce the IPPL this year in a virtual format. The IPPL is called the Indian Plumbing Professional League. IPA has about 1,500 pages of codes, which includes the Uniform Illustrated Plumbing Code of India, the Swimming Pool Code, the Solar Code. Now it's being rechristened into its new avatar called the Solar Hydronics and Geothermal Code, the Water Efficiency and Sanitation Standard, the Water Efficient Products India Guide, where only by fixing aerators you are able to save 50% water, Hafiz, without compromising on the comfort of the user. So if you still have a 10-minute shower, and if you still sing under your shower, you think you're Mohammad Rafi or Lata Mangeshkar, go ahead and do it. You can still have your 10-minute shower, but we'll save 50% water without compromising, without you coming to know and without compromising on your comfort. So what we have tried to do is, these codes are all based on International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials, USA codes, which is a 105-year-old association. And we are using these codes to teach you through Indian Plumbing Professional League. These codes have been revised in India. In fact, B.O. Prasanna Kumar is one of our technical committee members also. And codes are revised in 2008, 11, 2013, 2014, 2017, completely indigenized. The Uniform Illustrated Plumbing Code of India, what Prasanna was telling you, in fact, Prasanna, it is 673 pages of plumbing, and therefore plumbing is a science. Last year, IPPL, if you see, we reached 32% beneficiaries were the consultants, architects were 15%, builders and real estate developers were 17%, contractors 12%, and engineers 24%. So last year we had 2,100 participants, 225 learning sessions. Of course, there were 23 chapters where we taught in 23 different classrooms. So the same subject was being taught by 23 different trainers. This year we are going to do it virtual. So there's going to be the best of the trainers in India who are going to be teaching few thousand people in one go. And we are going to do this on a Saturday and Sunday, so that if people do not want to participate on a Saturday, the same stuff will be taught on a Sunday. So I would like all of you, through your associations, to enroll as many participants in the IPPL. It's not very expensive. It's 3,500 rupees, which includes membership of the IPA worth 3,500. There are a lot of more benefits. And it is very, very important that they participate so that they can learn plumbing over these 8 sessions, which are about 32 hours of learning. Then we go through 4 levels of quizzes. There are pictorial quizzes, there are written quizzes, and so that you go back, you get a steady break, and then you can come back and learn. And there are about 50 different cash prizes from 25,000 to 1.5 lakhs, so that people are induced into learning and taking part in the quizzes. Lots of takeaways, as I said. There's a Indian Plumbing Today magazine, monthly magazine, which will go to the participant. They will be able to read through the codes that are available. Of course, these are read-only codes, because these codes are available to life members of IPA free of cost, or they can buy them. A complimentary copy of A Guide to Good Plumbing Practices, and of course the IPA professional membership. So 3,500 is not a big amount. We do not want to make money out of it, but we want to impart plumbing knowledge to the architects and interior designers, to builders, to developers, so that we are able to impart proper codal-based plumbing in future. Thank you very much. I don't want to get into these slides. I think it's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gurmiji. You nicely touched on the plumbing education requirement, where Hafizji is endorsed for IPPL, and all the way really it is working. Because the importance of plumbing is all reaching to, because where it was not touched in individual curriculum, where it was only come through the practice, and this is order of the day and a requirement. Thank you very much.
Prasanna ji, can I just add one more thing?
Yeah, please.
By the way, Architect Hafiz Contractor ji, we are training 1.2 million plumbers in 10 years. We are mandated under the National Skill Development Council. We have an Indian Plumbing Skill Council, and the mandate is to train 1.2 million plumbers in 10 years. So that training is already going on. So in the next 5 years, you'll have an army of plumbers who can install as per the codes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gurmiji. Thank you very much. And our next panelist, Mr. V. Srinivas, holds MTech Electrical Engineering degree. He established MEP firm called Synergy Infra Consultants last 25 years. And he worked on various projects in healthcare, residential, commercial, IT, retail, besides defense projects of national importance. He is a certified energy auditor, chartered engineer, and accredited professional of IGPC, and he is the past chairman of Indian Plumbing Association, Hyderabad chapter. Welcome you, Mr. Srinivas, for your initial remarks, sir.
Thank you very much, Prasanna. Good evening to everyone. Really, it's a wonderful session what we are having today with a lot of experts to speak on the plumbing challenges and also the wishes, what we are expecting out of the plumbing designs. So I would like to tell you one thing. In my opinion, the plumbing has not been given its due importance during all these years. If you see, the plumbing, unlike any other engineering subject, it is directly linked to the health and hygiene. Mr. Gurmeet has talked about the kind of, the problems what people face, like diarrhea and other things with bad water issues. Can I go to the next one, please? Yeah. Open all. Yeah. See, in many of the other countries, they have, something called sanitary inspectors. Even earlier in India, we used to have in most of the municipalities and cities, but today we don't find. If there is a bad plumbing, it will lead to a lot of issues, especially health-related issues. And if we are not careful about that, it happened even in some of the high-rise buildings where the STP treated water, by mistake, it was connected to a wash basin where people started taking that water and got sick. So generally, if you see globally, every 90 seconds, a child dies due to waterborne disease. These are the basically taken from some of the reports. And also 50% of the malnutrition is due to unclean water. And the global economic losses, it almost sum up to around $260 million. That's what it says because of the lack of basic water and sanitation. And ironically, today we have, people who own more cell phones than toilets. Only after the Swachh Bharat mission, there were a number of toilets that have been constructed. And at least, there are some basic sanitation facilities that have been provided. But unfortunately, in many of the places, these things are also to be maintained well. And in fact, the treatment of this CH is also posing a biggest challenge. And also many of the villages and towns, people have to, in Asia and African countries especially, they have to walk almost 3.7 miles on an average for getting a safe drinking water. The next one. And if you look at, the plumbing as such, the most important thing is it's not only doing the right plumbing for getting the required pressure and other things, but today the major focus is on water savings. How do we get, when we have only 4% of the global water in the country, where we have 16% of the population almost in the country. And if you look at, some of the statistics, most of the major metros, they have much higher than the specified water consumption. That is the National Building Code of India. If it specifies around 135 liters per capita consumption per day, but whereas whatever has been noticed, Hyderabad has got 150, Bangalore is around 150 to 200, and Delhi is the highest, almost 220 to 240. And then Chennai, it's the lowest. And we have also seen last season, summer, where the Chennai, many of the offices and schools have to declare holiday due to lack of water. And this problem becomes very intense during summer season because lack of rains and also lack of catchment areas within the cities today, which is a major concern for every one of us. And then, 21 Indian cities, this is what one of the reports says, they will run out of groundwater by 2020, but luckily we are surviving as in today because of maybe some of these groundwater recharge and other issues. And 40% of India's population, it says, will have no access to drinking water by 2030. So if you look at all these things, our primary concern as a plumbing engineer is also to look at the water conservation, and water also has got an excess with energy. So the moment, if we have to supply water for the entire city, which has to be conveyed from a long distance, it is going to be a massive job and it consumes a lot of energy. Unless, one of the, the ex-RBI governor, Raghuram Rajan says, probably if the solar power becomes much cheaper, then desalination could be a viable solution. If it becomes a viable solution, maybe after 20, 30 years, then probably the water crisis could be reduced a bit. The next slide, please. So what we are looking at, is the recycle, reuse of water. And we see in many of the cities, unfortunately, 70% of the wastewater is not recycled. Only 30 to 40% is recycled, and we don't know what's happening to this water. And if you look at the two towns, two-tier cities and towns and some of the other villages, the major problem, what is being faced, is the septage treatment. See, what will happen is, the septic tanks and then most of the trucks, they carry the septage and then they dump it somewhere, causing a lot of ill health for the neighboring people. So these are some of the challenges, what I feel. And plumbing, we need to make sure it's not only, looking at a right plumbing, but also towards the conservation of water as well as energy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. You very nicely narrated, particularly the health aspect which you touched upon. It is definitely, it is said as 1 rupee spending on good plumbing will save 10 rupee on your medical bill. You nicely tabulated all your data, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for initial remarks. A proverb says, we never know the true value of the water until well dries. With this, now we good to go for panel discussion of the topic plumbing problems, challenges, wishes on plumbing in modern architecture. Today, I have few questions for each of the panelists. We have all agreed to differ or agree each other. Yeah, now we'll go for the panel discussion. My first question, Madam, to you, Jabin Madam, is on plumbing. When we say the plumbing for an interior designer is back of the wall working, the utility end like sink, wash basin, bathtub, to work requires strong support of water supply and drainage, which should also address the space access for maintenance. what an interior designer should be familiar with and how to read and interpret engineer's plumbing plan or vice versa. Either understand architect's plan to the plumbing engineer. Please, your comments.
Thank you for the question. In this context, I want to say that there are two types of design approaches we need to look at. One, as you said, is about plumbing being back of the wall. That happens when we are doing regular designs, like the usual conventional designs where we have contained toilets, then nice compact kitchens, where everything goes along a wall and everything fits into our normal definitions. That is simpler, but that is what is majorly being used. So in those kind of situations, it is actually very easy to work with the plumbing consultant, plumbing contractor, and even figure out the entire drawing and take it forward. But there is a new set of designs happening, or requiring another approach, which is about when this plumbing leaves the wall, the back of the wall, and comes to the front and even takes center stage. Because plumbing, yes, normal definition is to take water from one point to other with enough stops for our utilities and all that. However, today, if you look at man, he's a liberated person, inspired, and with a lot of adventure in him. Experiment on the different ways in which you can utilize water or the way he is handling water. So there could be a need for a tub at the center or a kitchen sink as a satellite station in the center and all that. So in those cases, plumbing will have to leave the wall literally and come to the forefront. So there we are talking about some adventurous design also. In this scenario, what we do is we make our plumbing consultant our partners. Because architects and designers, we dare to dream. And dreams, when we dream, actually we are not very rational about it. We don't think about how it happens, we only know that it has to happen. So they are equal partners in making these dreams possible. So then there is another way of working. So right at the start of the design stage, not at the later stage, we sit with the consultant and say that this is the kind of project, it is done for maybe a star hotel or a very exclusive residence. So here, this is what we want to do. And then how can you do it? So that is when we collaborate and discuss basic plumbing principles, which will leave the conventional ways and go or transcend into something really different. It has always happened because I think that plumbing consultants also, whoever I have worked with, they have seemed to enjoy this kind of deviations wherein ordinary context definitions are taken into something different. To design is pure joy, and to be a partner, to involve them as a partner is really good, and it has always paid. So with regard to drawings, we have very, very detailed drawings with respect to our working drawings about the spaces. Then we have very detailed discussions with our consultants, particularly when the job is very tough or different. And then they also come back with the designs. We sit together and interpret, understand. And then also, when things are really kind of different, we work it out at hand, at site with bare hands. So that's it. It's drawings plus site experience, site working, experimenting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Zarinji. And I like the two words. It is not the back of the wall, but it is the front of the wall as well as center stage. I liked it. And also the collaborative work really required, because plumbing you can do it for the first time, right? That is where it goes. Thank you very much for the insight of the first question. And Hafiz sir, the first question to you is, plumbing is art and science of creating and maintaining the sanitary condition in a building. How do you rate this MEP service, particularly plumbing? Requires some advice on the first time installation as well as the maintenance aspects, sir.
See, when we are looking at high-rise buildings, every time we tackle a high-rise building, and when we start talking to our consultants, yes, we learn a lot of new things, and I feel that maintenance and first of all to design is very, very important, and maintenance also is very important. And a simple thing like, when we are talking about high rises, we talk about how to make a high rise building more efficient and how to make it more economical. And there where we come about is the loading. And we all know that every toilet, everybody wants to have a drop of about 8 inches, 9 inches, or at least a slit of 8 inches or 9 inches so that all the pipes are properly embedded. And a lot of times we say, no, we'll take a downslung. And there the problem of, who's going to maintain when that downslung pipe, which goes into another flat, starts leaking. Now, these kind of answers are not there, and we keep on talking about. So I feel that I will again come to a very important point in that there is a need of modifying a lot of fixtures and fittings. Like a lot has happened in piping system, lot has happened in distribution system. New kind of pipes have come, new kind of mastics have come. All of that is there. But from the original, like a simple toilet pot, there hasn't been any modification to that. So I would say that yes, one can talk, many things, when one starts discussing in detail. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the insight. Now, the plumbing from earlier days to now, its improvement is there a lot now. And as you nicely touched on, the sunken toilet or the toilets in the pipes which are taken on the false ceiling. Now the design is also equally improving in terms of the efficiency of the toilet fixtures, fittings, piping. The design maintenance aspect is also touched upon. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that answer. And to Mr. Suresh sir, how do you visualize the contribution of plumbing in any building? Can be a great importance to sustainability, and what is the biggest challenge you feel in the design of modern building? Do you feel the codes and standards are adequate for type of building which is being built in India currently?
I think the biggest contribution you just heard Gurmeet telling its contribution on plumbing in a large way on percentage of construction. But more important than that, the quality of life in any particular building, any building for you take that, it depends upon the quality of water that you can serve over there and the sanitation that you can ensure. If you have both of them not there, even if the best mosaic or best marble and all the best finishes coming, if you don't have water and good sanitation with the fixtures, that particular building has no value. Take my word. So that's the type of importance that plumbing in any building can contribute in a large way. It's like the great story that was there. I don't want to repeat that. Which part of the body is important? Each one telling they are important, but I don't want to complete the joke. Finally, which one was, the terminal end. So therefore, I do not want to say the importance of the plumbing component. It's a very large area, but I think large contribution in the modern context. And all buildings, be it the single-storied building or a medium density building or a medium-rise building of the order of around 20 stories, or get 100 meters about 30 stories high, or a 200 meters 60 stories high, all these particular buildings will have the same amount of facilities needed in each of the units coming. There's an office space coming, or a residential space, or a hotel space, or a hospital space, etc. Only thing is, some buildings are having the reduced heights coming in a large way. But I think in all of them, the most important component is the water conservation measures that you will have to do through various initiatives that can happen over there, be it in respect of the water savings through the aquifer recharging or rainwater harvesting or wastewater recycling through primary, secondary and tertiary treatment, recycling of the water for various uses, and to that extent, the extent of water can be served in a very large way. Low flow fixtures is important. Equally important is the important component of water efficient fixtures, like energy efficient fixtures. Water efficient fixtures have come in a large way, and this is also a great initiative of IAPMO as well as the IPA, and there's also Indian standard also come on that. Codes are not a problem because the National Building Code of India Part 9, Section 1 to 4 covers all issues of the plumbing. That's called plumbing service itself. The title itself is that. It covers all components of water supply, sanitation, gas supply, as well as the component on waste management into a large way. Along with that, you add on the Uniform Plumbing Code brought out by IPA along with the IAPMO, brings in a substantial amount of value. It is not the problem of codes are there phenomenally, but what is required is the codal provisions are going to be understood by all concerned, be it the designer or be it the one who is detailing, and I'm very happy therefore to hear both from Hafiz as well as Zabeen, how in detailed drawing all these are nicely brought out now with very minute detailing coming with a sunken floor, or how to take care of the P-trap or the S-trap, or the joining that should be coming in this particular area are very important issues which can contribute. As I said, if you can save around 25 to 35% of the water in each of the building, your contribution is phenomenal in this particular sector. And therefore, you don't have to go beyond. We always and every country to be like Singapore. Take Singapore. 100% of all your sewage and sullage, which is the wastewater, are completely recycled with primary, secondary and tertiary treatment with appropriate thing. All that water is completely reused. They don't call as recycled water. They call it the new water, NEWATER. W is common for new and water. And that's a big success story. Everybody knows that. And therefore, we should utilize that particular component in a large way, conserve every drop of water. And if I can borrow a word from Gurmeet ji, if you have gel, you have kal. If you don't have gel, you don't have kal. You know, it's all a matter of tomorrow. Forget about 2050 when we are about 170, 1.7 crores of 1.7 crores, 170 crores of people. But more important, even now that water scarcity is a very major component, we got to do all the efforts required to deal with it. It's a major challenge that comes over in this particular area. But as important, two major things I want to say, since you mentioned about the sustainability, Part 11 of the National Building Code is an important chapter in addition to Part 9, and that is called the approach to sustainability. And that brings in all the issues of sustainability, and water sustainability is the most important component, including wastewater. And another important component that comes over there is a life cycle costing for the building. What is the capital cost of the building now, and what is going to be its maintenance over the time period? While building can have a 60-year life, but your plumbing fixtures and other related things may not have the same amount of life. So therefore the piping that you use and these fixtures that you use might have lesser life. But if you can select those things which can have a larger life, your life cycle costing for those things will come into a very large way. And the most important, the Part 12 of the National Building Code, which is the first time that's added anywhere in the world, that's assets and facility management. Namely, whatever you build over there, you got to keep it going. Now, we are not doing that. I'm telling you, except a few discerning builders where they're ensuring that these things are done. Now, for example, I've been with the Hiranandani group, and Hafiz did it in Hawaii, Hafiz did it in Chennai for Oragadam. All these issues are brought in the design features and implementation features, and also in the maintenance issue. Facilities management is important, and plumbing facilities are a very major component. Are you ensuring that all your plumbing fixtures are being maintained, just like your firefighting system or your lift system, air conditioning system, energy system? So
right, sir. You
also
correctly
an important component. So it's an integrated approach. So it's not the lack of the problem, but the practices as well as the processes that we adopt should be that such that those things which are part of the codal and standards provision are implemented in full spirit, and people get the benefit of that.
Thank you, sir. You nicely mentioned the example of Singapore. Singapore really, after getting independence from Malaysia, it was a big challenge which was there for them to improve their water resources. So the proverb says the cancer cures smoking. So like that, you have a problem, then you will find the solution. That is what is really happening to required in Indian context, and the saving of water, which you have said it properly, that sustainability is a key factor which is really required. My first question going to Mr. Gurmeet Singh. Our metro cities, sir, particularly Mumbai, coming up with super tall, that is exceeding 300 meters. That is what the definition says as super tall. High-rise building, and now with mega tall building, that is up to 600 meter high. Probably 450 is there in Mumbai. High-rise building, what are the challenges in design manufacturer faces? What manufacturer is facing for the quality of pipe, type of pipe? Or can you give some insight of consideration of plumbing for mega tall buildings, sir?
Well, before I tell you about super tall structures, I was involved in a meeting with one of the famous architects of India, not in this panel, by the way, and the owner, and there were 10 people in the room, and this was a 330 meter tall structure. And the consultant asked me a stupid question: what is the biggest size of copper pipe you can manufacture? So I said, this is absolutely a stupid question. By the way, he was a Parsi architect, but I won't take the name. He was not Hafiz, so don't. But you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I said, how big a copper pipe do you want? And he said, we want such a big copper pipe. I said, what do you want to do with such a big copper pipe? Do you want to put a person inside? He says, no, we have to pump water from ground floor to 100th floor. So I said, that means the amount of energy you're going to use, the pressure you're going to use, you're going to burst all the joints. And then they realized that there was no zoning in this building, you know. And unfortunately, I had a fight with the consultant. I was told to sit out for a half an hour. And when I came back, they said, we have removed the plumbing consultant, and now they bought in another plumbing consultant. So anyway, so, you know, there is a lack of knowledge in most of the designers about super tall structures and how to design plumbing systems in them. Basically, these require very special design and planning to be integrated in the design initially into the civil scheme and blueprint. You cannot do it later. And if you do it later, you'll be losing FSI on service floors. You see, high-rise buildings are very complex and challenging plumbing systems. How can a high-rise structure be designed to meet the needs of low water consumption, save energy, at the same time provide the owner or occupant with a sustainable and safe installation? We have to look at booster pump sizing. We have to look at maximum and minimum pressure zone requirements, water heater pressure issues, domestic hot water return piping design, drainage and vent stack design. Now, can you imagine in that structure I was speaking about, where there is no zoning, and so when you pull the flush, your WC, on the 100th floor, what will be the pressure of your waste when it comes down to the ground floor? It will be like a bomb, right? Like an explosion. So this is, I mean, it was crazy that we had this battery of people sitting there, 10, 12 people, knowledgeable people, but they did not know about zoning. Most developers overuse even, you know, pressure reducing walls. They think pressure reducing walls is okay. And by putting PRVs in the plumbing industry, we call these energy wasting walls, because you're creating energy and then you're wasting energy, you know. So what we need really is the taller the building, the higher the pressure build-up, the higher the decibel levels in the sanitary drainage lines. We have to break the high-rise structure into smaller individual buildings, and we need to zone the building into stratification of pressure zones. Now, this zoning can only take place at a civil design stage and never later. So this has to be incorporated when the building is being envisaged and designed, because you may have 5 different service areas in the building. You might have 4, you might have 3. So it has to be done in the design stage itself. The piping, both for water supply and drainage, needs to be carefully selected separately for higher pressures. We need to incorporate silent drainage wherever required. We need to make sure that there is a consideration incorporated well within the architectural design to achieve proper plumbing installation. So, I mean, I don't want to get into the technicalities of a high-rise structure, but it is very, very complex, and therefore I would advise the architectural community to make sure that the consultant is involved from the beginning, so that we don't get into the problem that I got into, you know, of how big a pipe you make, and then, I mean, the whole design was wrong, right? And now they have gone ahead and in a 300-meter structure, they have now 6 service floors. So they have gone ahead and over-designed also. Because which is also wrong. You don't need 6 service floors in a 300-meter structure. So and they wasted a lot of FSI. So all I'm trying to say is that we need to incorporate all these things initially in the civil structure, so that we don't get into problems in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Gurmeet. Which the one point which you have nicely taken is a very large the pipe size somebody has asked you, but that is not the way of designing. Particularly on it is like a building over building. It's a set of buildings sitting on set of building, become a mega rise building for as far as services are concerned. And stratification, yes, it is a key for particularly design of water supply. In sewerage system, generally what happens is, I've just given a little insight on the point which you made a point there for particular material choosing. Whatever the height of the building, it doesn't mean that height increases the velocity of sewage which is coming from top to bottom, because the sewage or the wastewater which travels telescopically and it reduces its velocity, and terminal velocity of different building is studied. It is definitely any height of the building is not more than 4 meters per second square. So anyway, it requires some sort of good material of construction.
Also, we need to look at this waste now. For example, the Statue of Liberty has a sway of 1.5 meters from its pivot.
Exactly. That's all required. The joint of pipe. There is another point is also missed. Is a shortening of building. When you load the building, in a fully loaded building, it is called technically in a structural shortening of columns. Those shortening of columns, structural engineering is taking allowance, but whereas plumbing might miss. So to compress his pipes. So these are the very important points which you have touched, sir. Thank you very much. My next question, the first question to Mr. V. Srinivas is, do you feel Indian metros have adequate infrastructure in terms of water supply, UGD, that is particularly sewerage system as well as drainage system for stormwater, solid waste handling system? What are the short-term and long-term measures to be adopted by local municipalities, and how are we addressing?
Thank you, Prasanna. First of all, I would like to say, when you talk about the metro cities, definitely they are not in a position to meet the requirements of either the regular domestic water or even the wastewater. You can see, I mean, otherwise we need not discuss at an elaborate length about all these issues, right? So the major problem is they do not have the water sources. One of the major problem is we have to get this water from somewhere, nearby rivers or lakes. Earlier days, we used to have a lot of catchment areas within the city areas. But today, most of the catchment areas have shrunk, and they were occupied at many of the places. And we are not, able to collect any water within the city because it has become a concrete jungle. And even, we are talking about one side, we have, most of these catchment areas are vanished. And the other side, we are talking about rainwater harvesting and then, groundwater recharge and things like that. If you talk about groundwater recharge, it all depends on the percolation qualities of the soil, right? I mean, we will not be able to take out the entire stormwater into the ground as it is. And we have seen in many of the cases, the approvals for the buildings are given without proper infrastructure. Even after many of the buildings are built, still today we do not find stormwater drains or sewerage network within the most of the cities. So this poses a major challenge. The first question, even the last webinar when we had for IPPL, at least 2-3 participants were asking, how do I dispose of stormwater from the site? So we cannot, see, unless, but it all depends. To some extent, probably you could harvest water. To some extent, you can recharge to the ground. But if there is an excess water, that has to be taken out through certain catchment areas. This is one thing which is a major issue in most of the metros. And second thing is, as I have already talked about, 70% of the wastewater is not treated in many of the metros, and we do not have even sewage networks. And the MOEF guidelines, they talk about having a sewage treatment plant by every community by itself. Just look at it. I mean, how many communities can maintain these kind of sewage treatment plants, decentralized sewage treatment plants? Everywhere we face, many of the cases we find issues related to reuse of this water because they are not treated properly. This water is not treated. They are not interested to run their compressed air systems because of energy costs, and they do not have, first of all, the expertise to maintain these things. So it's the responsibility of the government to see how best these people can be, extended with a helping hand to maintain these facilities. I think that is what is the change now at present we are looking at in some of the places, the states at least. If you look at the short-term measures and long-term measures, the short-term measures are, first of all, bringing some kind of awareness among the public to look at the reduction of water usage and also reuse the treated water. I think if these two we are able to do it, we can bring down the lot of consumption for the domestic regular supply of water. And second thing is, the STPs, whatever community-wise STPs are there, how best they can be, helped to maintain these facilities properly. And today we talk about different kind of technologies for STPs, right? There are so many vendors. Everybody comes with their own technology in some of the cases and proprietary type of things. And we are facing problems, they are unable to maintain some of these things. So we have to have some kind of support and education by the municipalities to all the individuals. And the other thing is monitoring the consumption of water itself. They have meters, but many of the cases, they are not monitored properly. And also, another major issue is, what do we do? If you look at the residential communities, there is a lot of excess water, treated water, which is available within the community. How that can be disposed of is a major challenge. If that can be addressed, probably this could be taken away by, the treatment plants could be adopted by some builders. Probably this could be reused for construction or something. That will be a very good thing. And the long-term measures, we need to have centralized sewage treatment plants. In the master planning itself, we need to have space identified for bigger plants, which could be maintained very well. And the sanitary networks, which is very sewage network, which has to be in place before the buildings are given the permissions. And most of the cases, even this 2-tier cities and other places, the septic tanks and soak pits and all these things have to be gone because they pose a major challenge for the disposal of the septage once that is picked up, because the BOD levels are going to be quite high, enormously high. So again, disposing of that thing will become a major issue. So this is what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You've given a good this one. In fact, as on a private only to help us to see our municipal corporations are doing should do better, because in a private sector we are running fairly better. Even a small community which is a well-built community with residential, commercial, all intact, then we rather use treated water for HVAC purpose and irrigation purpose. As Mr. Suresh just said, we can see the net zero buildings. So if it is a combined integrated community, one can achieve this. Otherwise, it is near to impossible. You nicely portrayed that the situation which is existing in a city now. Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. Thank you. Move to second round of questions now. Architect Zabina Madam, now the second question to you is, what is the biggest challenge you have faced while designing interior in terms of plumbing you feel Indian market has adequate option in terms of selection of product and the plumbing fixture, whatever you require to integrate in your designs? You need to unmute. Madam, you need to unmute.
Yeah. So I can only answer this question from the design point of view. I've been listening to what you all have been saying. It's all really fascinating. So, but let me stick to what I can tell from my side as an interior designer and architect. The biggest challenges I face probably can come under 3 sections. When I started my career, I started as an architect at the Greater Cochin Development Authority. And as you know, development authorities or housing boards, they deal with housing projects, and that too mostly for the LIG, low income group, and the EWS, economically weaker section. So immediately after my graduation, it was almost my first job, I was like kind of pulled down from that ecstatic levels of romantic designing and then coming to real facts of life, wherein I'm looking at boxes and boxes of houses, all looking same and attached, and these are places which we are giving to our people, economically weaker section and even the low income group. So I remember discussing it at the Department of Civil and Architecture at Greater Cochin Development Authority. And always, even as an individual, I was always fascinated. The most important part of the house which used to fascinate me, even as a kid, was the toilet. So I would kind of argue with the chief engineer and the chief architect. So let us do something for these people. These toilets are really drab. Can we just add 1 foot or like half? Yes. And then they would say, if we do that, it is this much length of piping, drinking water, wastewater, sewage pipes, drains, everything, and it is going to add almost like 10,000 rupees per house. And then instead of this housing scheme addressing 200 families, maybe we will go short. So this is the type of reality which I had to face. So this is one big challenge. As Hafiz rightly said, when we are looking at 1.4 billion population of this country and like 75% trying to make their ends meet, do we have enough plumbing options for them? Do we have enough water? Do we have enough sanitation facility? And then do we have enough products for them? What is the lowest cost of a WC or a faucet? So this has to be specifically addressed. We are a country of 1.4 billion people marching to be the superpower of tomorrow. So how we shape up our entire population with health and hygiene and qualify our population to be called a civilization, it is basically a lot on the shoulders of plumbing consultants and experts. Like I said, in Rome, we think that Rome is the capital of civilization, probably because it had huge aqueducts and even their own kind of tubs and even latrines during that time. Yet India is not far behind. If you look at history, the earliest copper pipe, I understand, 4000 BC, copper pipe was found in Indus Valley. So we can do it. We have a heritage. We have a respect for this particular science, and that is one challenge which we are facing. And that challenge is so very dear to my heart even today. Now, the other challenge is about looking at this evolving capitalist market wherein 14% are really, really rich, super rich. And yes, by some principle think that yes, the rich should spend. Then only that spending will actually kind of spread on to the masses. That is one theory which we are seeing. They shouldn't be saving money, they should spend. Then only we will be able to trickle that money's effect into our low income group people. So there the demands are high. Water is not just water. They want to see the shape of water, the sight of water, the sound of water, smell of water, touch of water. So water becomes experience, and plumbing has to now deal with this very key words, wellness and even water treatment. So it is going into another sphere or realm altogether. And then our companies, our manufacturers are doing a lot of research in those areas. People are coming with products like, where tub water can be there for 1 month and it can be used by a family also. So that kind of self-filtered scientific process in which we can even save water, and you do this, is coming. So that is one thing about it. Thirdly, the challenge is about, again, the mundane plumbing, which we have to take center stage sometime. The real problems at the site, like you have to have a sunken slab in an apartment, otherwise you can't do it. Or if you want to drill it down and do a core cutting and take it, how can we say that the person living below will have to, kind of live with that inconvenience if something goes wrong? So that is something. And then, the thickness of the wall wherein we have to hide the, valve for flushing. All these things are regular problems. So actually there are 3 kinds of problems, and I think, everything has a solution when we apply our mind to it. And particularly it happens very beautifully when the architect or the designer sits with the consultant. The consultant knows how the water works or the pressure works. The architect knows, like I always told you, he has a little bit of a pool in himself which makes him dare to dream. So together we find solutions, and I am so very proud that in my projects, I have particularly, maybe I need to patent it, something called a trench slab, wherein, the slab, instead of sunken slab, can be taken slab, or even a ledge wall. These kind of principles are indigenous jugaad. And can happen, and jugaad is our kind of, very, very important forte as far as Indian brains go. So this is what I want to say.
Thank you very much, Madam. It's very nicely given that information, the sunken slab, but somehow we need to understand it is a community living. If the pipe is coming below somebody's ceiling, above somebody's ceiling, it should be community living. Finally, plumbing has to answer for right plumbing, not causing any inconvenience. This is the point which I take from here. The plumbing should be always, we need to do it perfectly. Now I think we are a little short of time. I just need to expedite. We may not have to go going for the third round. One of the questions, next question is to Mr. Hafiz sir, and I am just taking the third question in second because we may not be able to go to third round, because this is very interesting for me to listen from you. What is the thing which is happening for Indian contestants? Our smart cities are addressing the plumbing infrastructure is our cities are addressing plumbing infrastructure in a smarter way? If not, what are your recommendations? That is the question to you, sir, Mr. Hafiz.
Yeah, I am sorry to say that though our beloved Prime Minister, when he said that smart cities, it was very nice that, this is the first time that government wanted to give a lot of importance to the urban area. So rather than saying smart cities, it will be saying, I would say that smart way of building. The main thing is today, we are right now, everybody confined to home and all that because of, you all know the coronavirus. Now, why is this kind of a situation arising? Now, we all know that everyone is talking, and the biggest concern today is about environment and global warming. And we are one of the first generations who can do something about it, and maybe the last one who can do anything about it. And if you look at it, whatever we have agreed with the Paris Accord also, that we, India, we have one of the largest, urban sprawls, that out of all the land that we have, 11% of our land goes in urban areas. then some 55 or 60 goes in rural and agriculture. What it comes to that our forest cover is much less, and in fact we have agreed in Paris Accord also that we are going to increase it. Now with all of this and with all of this, the right question that could be asked is, are we wise enough to have more cities being sprawled up everywhere and increasing our urban footprint? The answer is no. There is the other question that I would like to ask, that take all the major metros. How much of land is occupied by the slum guys? If that slum land is redeveloped, we will be able to house them in 30% of the land that they are already occupying. With that, you will be releasing so much of more land in the urban area. Then, in all the urban areas, all your old dilapidated buildings which are there, if you were to organize them and redevelop them, then we will be again creating more urban areas. So rather than going out and gobbling farmland to create new smart cities, you are gobbling farmland to create new smart cities, which is a very wrong thing. Now look this is the urban part of it. Now look at it from the part of that, your population is increasing. Means when I say yours, means our country's population is increasing. The way that we waste food, the way that we eat food, we eat more, we waste more. So the amount of farmland that will be needed in the future is much more than what we have today. We are producing, there's some statistics about, how much we produce for each of our Indian population. We are not at some great figure. We are at a much lesser figure than China, and we are something like 6 or 7 times less than USA. Okay. So what I am trying to say that we should take our urban areas, redevelop them. We should redevelop our slums. We should redevelop all our old areas. We should think about how we can make our new cities into more denser and compact. We should not think about expanding our cities. If we are expanding, we are gobbling the farmland, and the farmers finally are gobbling the forest land, which is a disaster that we are creating for our future population. I would like to say quote one very good saying, that we do not inherit this earth from our forefathers. We have borrowed it from our children. The point is that leave this earth in a good condition for our future population. And if we do not realize that, we all will be gone. But what kind of earth we are going to live for our future population?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. This is what I just wanted to hear from you. You really nicely portray now the smart cities. Make the city smarter than creating smart cities. This is what is which is required out of the day. Totally, we need to look into remastering the town plans of our city, townscapes. I know you are a great propagator of high-rise and save the area for green than building the concrete jungle. Thank you very much, sir. It was very interesting. I think we should reach to our governments to do something in a war-proofing basis. I don't know whether it is being heard or not. Yeah. My next question to Mr. Suresh, sir, is is how IGBC and IPA can work together to bring bridging gap for these, and how often architects, designers, consultants should train from IPA and IGBC and fresher course. How to go about this, sir?
Of course, this is the most standard ways to say that we got to work together. But before we get into it, I think they should be able to contribute better to the plumbing industry. What I feel is that the best way to say 17 years back was 150 years of CPWD. Today it's about 167 years old. And our honorable president, same Abdul Kalamji, when he was the president, he was the chief guest of the event over there. Are they doing well? CPWD, 150 years of CPWD means all the engineers and architects belong that they all gathered to hear from me that you've done a great job, you've done a great job. Can you believe what he left out his address prepared by some people? He on his own started speaking. He said, when I got into the Rashtrapati Bhavan and various other government buildings and other buildings in the office, etc., he says, my problems are seepage, blockage, leakage, soakage, and septage. You're all very good in concrete design, construction, marble, all the best for finish everywhere. You go to the wet core area of all your toilets, your bath units, your WC units, your water unit over there is one of the most ugliest scenes that you have because you concentrate on everything else excepting the importance of plumbing. Bad plumbing is the reason why all those buildings beautifully done, private sector included, not necessarily government alone. But I thought this is what the message he gave. So therefore you got to gear up to deal with the importance to be given to plumbing as much as structural design or fire design or the issues related to construction safety or practices and finishes for the building as much as flooring or whatever as this particular. It is not happening in a big way. So therefore, we got to get it into practice in a large way. You ask a question to the right technical know-how. Know-how is not a problem. Know-how is there. But how the show-how is important. Hands-on showing and how to do and how not to do is the most important message that comes out of this particular thing. And once you do that, automatically incentives will come for such type of buildings to give additional FAR or FSI growth there or property tax reduction, etc. Many states have done it for the green building. But what can IGBC and IPA do together? Very big way. Because one major thing is, of course, the level of not only the public health engineer, it can be the environmental engineer, also the architects and civil engineers working in the team as well. And more importantly are the plumbing artisans in a large way. And it was nice to hear 1 million plumbers will be trained in 5 years time period. We are roughly around 50 million construction workers or 5 crores construction workers. So 1 million or 1/10 of a crore will be the plumbing area, while the plumbing council will be a great job. What needs to be done is IGBC and IPA should work together in this area in their own way. Like he talked of the IPPL, the Plumbing Professional League, we have the IGL or the Green League coming. Also, the IGBC accredited professionals who will become rounded personalities to deal with all aspects, not pure architecture alone, not pure civil engineering alone, how to work together by getting all these particular issues, water management, energy management, waste management, and therefore that expertise will come into a large way of not only to give awareness, appreciation and application mode, and that has got to be hands-on. Yeah. It's not going to be PowerPoint presentation. Has to be hands-on. We got to get large number of people. Supervisors are a very important component. You might have the best public health engineer, environmental engineer. You might even have some trained one, but the people who are going to supervise the real watertight thing of a plumbing line or a S-trap or the P-trap being laid or the connections being laid comes as an important component. The industry has got major problems there. So your courses have got to be done on that. The professional course or the IGBC accredited professional or IP accredited courses like the IGL or the IPPL being done over there. Large amount of things of awareness creation. I think I would even spend a little time on, we should play a major role in taking the message also to RWAs in a large way, because at the end of the day, they are the one going to use it. The assets and facility management companies in large, they are the ones going
Yes,
to
sir.
maintain it. So therefore, our
You
stakeholders...
did highlight it, yeah. You
Our
did highlight it in your earlier question.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry to interrupt, sir. Yes, sir. Sorry to interrupt. I got your message on particularly on RWA
Don't put
involvement.
my limited point is, don't put that into the IGBC professional, IPA professional. Then you'll fail.
Yeah,
You've
that's
got to work together, the industry as a whole. Are you able to make an impact to the industry as a whole? And wherein your contribution is coming over there, how can you split the message? Otherwise the question was very clear. Everybody will do
Yes,
that
sir.
together, working together by doing something for their professional and your professional. That's not enough. You might do some amount, but if you want to really make an impact, it has got to cover the whole segment together. And all that we can do together, take the large message of a large movement should be there of the clean water, clean sanitation movement into which we can contribute.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. You nicely touched on RWA point, which we are never touched because the maintenance is a key to every success of your installation. Particularly plumbing, we only remember plumbing when the pipe leaks. Otherwise, never looked into the plumbing, which requires preventive maintenance.
The president message: seepage, blockage, leakage, soakage, and septage. Wonderful message he gave.
Yeah. I know that I want to touch that point. You did it once again. The message is also ending with message: leakage, soakage, leakage, stoppage, wastage. So all that age, in this new age, we can't afford to have it. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And my question to President Mr. Gurmeet Singh Arora, IPA. In the last question, probably it is the last round which we are running now because of out of time. We can meet again. Do you feel once again the similar question like what Mr. Srinivas did answer? I just want in a little different perspective to Mr. Gurmeet. Do you feel Indian metros have adequate infrastructure in terms of water supply, UGD, sewerage, solid waste handling, and particularly water energy nexus, which you need to do, which Mr. Srinivas also did touch some of the points?
The first thing I would like to tell you is the more amount of water you consume, the more amount of energy you consume. So there is a water energy nexus which is clear cut. In fact, Mr. Srinivas has put an energy and water meter in, I think, 15 or 20 of his sites, Aparna Housing and many, I don't want to name them, in and around Hyderabad. And he has actually measured the amount of energy that is saved due to water. Am I right, Srini? You have done this? Yeah, so he can talk about it later. He can throw some light on it. So there is a tremendous saving of money if you save water. Because we all feel water is free and water is supplied free by the municipal corporation. It is not so. You save water, you save money on energy. Now, the Central Pollution Control Board carried out an evaluation. I'm giving you an example of our capital, Delhi. Incidentally, Suresh Saab was from Delhi earlier. For many, many years, he was in Delhi with HUDCO. So the Central Pollution Control Board carried out this inspection evaluation of the sewage treatment plants in Delhi and their performance. You have some shocking results. The decadent water requirement is projected at 8,365 MLD for 2021 against the present installed capacity of STPs, which is at 2,330 MLD. So your present installed sewage treatment capacity in your capital is only 28% of what is projected for 2021. So what do you result? What is the result? You dump untreated sewage into Yamuna, into the Agra Canal, and with all kinds of pollutants, fluorides, arsenic, and your household sewage all into the rivers. Right now, you can see even the bottom of the lakes in Delhi because of COVID. I think COVID has done them a great favor. But the fact remains, when there is no COVID and all industries are also working and industries are also polluting like residential societies, 70% of the sewerage is untreated. Now, having said that, there is a solution. Also, I'll tell you, when this audit took place, they found that out of the 30 STPs which are installed in 17 locations in Delhi, only 22 were working. So that means about 67-68% of the sewage treatment plants of Delhi government, Delhi Jal Board, are working right now. Not 100%, when the sewage is much more, exponentially much more. And out of this, they were all working below 63% capacity. So you can imagine Delhi with a population 4 million in 1971, 19 million today, expanding exponentially, and only 55% have access to the centralized sewage system which I'm talking about. The rest just goes anywhere else in the field, or people there's open defecation or whatever, because as Hafiz sir said, you're covering the jungles, and we are going further into the rural hinterland, and therefore open defecation is going to stay because there are no toilets everywhere. Now, having said this, we at IBA and IGBC have teamed together to come up with an IGBC net zero water heating system, and we have lot of projects which are net zero on water and net zero on sewage. For example, Gurgaon does not have, Hafiz has done a lot of work in Gurgaon. They don't have a sewerage pipe system all around Gurgaon. You have to treat your own sewage. DLF treats their own sewage completely 100%. It's not a matter of O&M, because I know STPs have an O&M problem, and you can install an STP, but the operation and maintenance is a problem, and then the society would bypass. But DLF does the services themselves, and they are treating each and every drop of sewage internally. The Medicity, Medanta Hospital, Naresh Rehan's hospital, every drop of sewage is treated and every drop recycled. The water and whatever the sewage disposal also is evaporated and then disposed of in a hygienic manner. So we have a lot of net zero, not only water, but net zero waste projects in India now, which we have certified, IGBC has certified. I was at the Rural Self-Employment Training Institute of ICICI Bank with the chairman of ICICI. I had gone there to give the IGBC shield, where they do not consume a single drop of water from the municipal corporation. They do not discharge a single drop of sewage into the municipal corporation. There is no damn municipal corporation line for energy or for water. Now, can you imagine if I'm a standalone project? In fact, the project I was speaking about, I'll open up now, was Pehle Royal, that kitna bada pipe banate or whatever nonsense. But even that was supposed to be net zero on water. Now, can you imagine a flat which is costing 100 lakhs of rupees, 100 crores of rupees at 1 lakh rupees a square foot, minimum floor footprint 10,000 square feet. Okay, so see the 100 crore rupees. And that building with all the luxuries where you would have concierge service, you would have your car driving into a 5-star lobby like the Taj, and somebody parking your car and all that, they were still going to be net zero on water, and they were planning net zero on energy because they were going to produce energy off-site, which you can do now. You can do wheeling on energy. We have lots of projects like this. The Sagar School in Alwar, Ajmer, again, the whole school is net zero on water. Now, the Indira Paryavan Bhavan in Delhi, they're not fully net zero. They're net zero on energy, but very close to net zero on water. Please understand, the Mumbai Municipal Corporation, where I come from, used to give me 210 liters of water per head per day. It went down to 185, it went down to 135, and now the National Building Code of India also prescribes 90 liters of water per capita per day to a maximum of 5 occupants per flat. Now, what happens if I get a good-looking Bartan Wali Bai? Hafiz, if I get a good-looking Bartan Wali Bai, the Bartan Wali Bai goes to my kitchen, is washing my utensils but talking to the servants behind, the domestics behind, and there goes my 200 liters out of 150 liters of water. So, because while she is also...
You are creating a very good nexus between not only user and user.
Anyway.
You are creating everywhere the nexus you are finding. It is a very nice point we touched on.
Between good looks and water. Okay, so
yes.
Anyway,
I have taken a positive point of it, sir.
So it is better to use, your water efficient products India Guide. They have the dishwashers, clothes washers, you have sanitary ware, you have taps, fixture units, which are all specified for single star to 3-star, and the flow rates are mentioned there where you can save 50-60% water.
That's right.
Now, what we are doing in IPA, as some of you know, last year we have saved 133 crore liters of water through our iSave Water mission, where we have been supplying aerators free of cost and sometimes charging to the liters of water. Prasanna, Srinivas, you are all part of that. Our next campaign is what we call Jeevit Jal. That is giving life to water by empowering local communities to start looking after their water. Now, in Bengaluru, your city, Mr. Prasanna, had, I think, 199, some few thousand lakes earlier, what you call tanks. Then we have gone down to 189 and 179 now. And you have the distinct position of one lake catching fire. How many? 130, am I right? Fire twice. Pardon me?
You are not audible. There is some lag.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now. Yeah. So I think
can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I got your point now. It is a long description which you have given. Yes, you are addressing the saving of water and the.
You have one lake which has got fire twice.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So we have to be very careful to pollute our water bodies, empower communities to look after the water bodies, let them be the owners of those water bodies around them, and make sure that we start treating and respecting water. Because Mr. Suresh's words, I mean, they are my words, but he repeated them. Jal hai to kal hai, jal nahi to kal nahi. Thank you.
Thank you. Very nicely put. That too, particularly, I like that the nexus of energy and water. This is what our new designers has to understand. There may be a statement they have to do, how much water they supply and what is that energy embedment in the water through electrical energy and vice versa on water in electrical. Both we need to look into that, sir. My last question of the day today to Mr. Srinivas. To you, sir, it is how are you addressing the challenge in design of plumbing system in modern high-rise building? You did answer a little bit earlier with respect to water pressure logistics and drainage and venting issues in drainage pipe, because these are the main bigger issues. Mr. Hafiz also said there are problems in drainage pipes at the noise level. Mr. Gurmeet also highlighted on these things. And can plumbing service matters any emergency in the high-rise building as well? So it's a combination of many questions to you. You need to address that.
Yeah. So I would like to say one thing here, Prasanna. When we talk about the high-rise buildings, the main differentiator is the pressure. The consumption of water is same whether it is a low-rise or a high-rise or whatever the kind of building. So how do we handle this pressure? Mr. Gurmeet has already talked about it. In fact, about the hydraulic zones. So what is the minimum pressure what we can give and what is the maximum pressure that could be allowed in the system? So if you look at our National Building Code of India, it says maximum pressure of 4 bar, 4 kgs per square centimeter, with a minimum pressure of 0.5 bar. But I'm sure, I think with the kind of the gadgets, whatever we have, and especially the showers, and most of the cases we go up to 1.5 to 2 bar pressure as the minimum pressure. So that means that will give us a choice of only maximum 7 to 8 floors in a hydraulic zone. So how do we handle these different hydraulic zones in a large, tall building? One of the things, as Mr. Gurmeet talked about, is the pressure reducing valve. The pressure reducing valves are really easy to fit them into the system, but they are all definitely energy wasting devices. Like you are giving acceleration on one side to a vehicle and then applying a brake on the other side. So what will happen? You are wasting your energy. So, and another thing is the PRVs also need a lot of maintenance. What will happen if a PRV fails? That is the question. Then, whatever the fittings are there within the toilet, they will all be subjected to a very high pressure, and there could be, a disaster that can happen. So the best thing is whatever the hydraulic zones that are done, whether we will be able to serve them with different pumping systems is one thing, if it is a hydropneumatic system. And second thing is whether you will be able to create, as Mr. Gurmeet has already talked about in one of the super tall buildings or whatever it is, where there are 6 hydraulic zones and probably a service floor or a service level, which is created for the water storage, and then probably pump out water from there, distribute the water either by gravity or again by hydropneumatic system. But unfortunately, we are not finding this kind of places because, the spaces have become quite expensive today. And another major problem, what will happen is if you don't do this, if you want to depend only on the pumping systems, the pressures will definitely become very, very high. And normally used fittings like PM16 and other things, we may have to go for very large size, the higher rated fittings. And they're expensive and they're also prone for failure. If it fails again, the problem is whether it is again replaced with the proper fitting or not is the question. Otherwise, there will be a repetitive problems happening in these particular cases. So this is one major concern what we need to see when we deal with that. And the next part of the question, whatever you are talking about is drainage and venting. The venting is quite simple actually, and drainage also, you see, if I design an electrical system, I can always have a backup, right? A transformer, I can have another transformer. Probably, I can have a backup as a generator. But in case of a sewage system, what can I do? I can't put another pipe definitely into the system. Okay. Even though the maximum pressure that is subjected, as you rightly said, maximum, due to 9.8 meter per second or whatever is the velocity that can generate. But what will happen if there is a blockage or if there is a problem, leakage in that particular pipe? If you want to handle it, it's not possible, especially unless you are able to service these facilities. And when you talk about a high-rise building, where do we provide, the kind of plumbing shafts what we have? And the accessibility those plumbing shafts is a major concern. So when we look at the high-rise buildings, the drainage systems becomes really very difficult. At least the water supply system, nowadays we are able to take a centralized water shaft and probably distribute it to all the apartments from a central core of the building. But whereas the drainage, it has to go by gravity only within the toilets. So this is a major issue. So we have to look at the kind of fittings and fixtures and the piping systems which could withstand the kind of pressure as well as any kind of abuse. Because some of the cases what we had seen, while repairing the pipes itself, they got damaged. When there is a blockage, the plumber is generally he applies a rod. We don't use, we don't have the habit of using any kind of equipment, even though they're available. So that poses a major challenge. So that is what I would like to say.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. You are nicely narrated. It was little technical for architects and interior designers. Of course, these are the problems, sir, we are generally facing in selection of pipe, selection of material, the size of plumbing shaft. These are really which each other should respect our jobs, and we need to continue to do the right thing for the project, and then only we give the value-added project to our client together, sir. And with this, viewers, we are coming to an end of this round of questionnaires, and we are running out of time now, and hope this session is very interesting and also engaging. The quality of input which you have received from all our experts from architecture side, interior, consulting and policy domain, it's really interesting, which is helpful in your day-to-day design and all these aspects of building construction. The entire panel discussion given you a sure understanding and enlightened you. Thank you very much. With this, we are handing over to IDAC for the concluding things, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Zabinji. Sureshji, thank you very much. Gurmeetji, thank you. And Mr. Srinivas, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.